So you had a pretty good turnout this past weekend, man.
I appreciate it. Well, y'all, that was my baby army, man. That was massive. I didn't
Yeah.
expect that.
No, I'm glad I'm glad it turned out so well, man.
I
I
appreciate it.
was definitely excited to come up and just and I mean I know we've been talking about it for a long time, but just to kind of see the things you were talking about like a year or two ago and like holding the actual physical book is just like it's it's mind-boggling. But uh, listeners, if you guys have not heard about this, and I don't think we've discussed this on the pod, but
We have it.
my co-host here has been in the process of writing his own comic book. It's been a childhood dream of both of ours, and he's actually doing it. I have the comic book in my possession right now, guys. It's a real thing. It's happening.
Oh
But,
man.
but I'm not going to pitch this for you, Duran. Pitch it first. But you know what? Before we do that, welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the New Block Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Chris, aka Prince, with the homie Duran, aka Medic Grizzly, and many more ways than one. Duran, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. That's much love. I appreciate you, man. I really do. Nah, man. Like we talk about this as kids. We're like, yo, we gonna do this. We gonna make it happen. And the fact that like it actually is in your hand, that we did it, and this is only the beginning. It's crazy. Like the new paramedic superhero. We did new blood, new generation of
Yeah, man.
comics.
And so this past weekend, Duran had an event at a local comic book store back in our hometown. And he was giving out free samples of his new comic book, Medic Grizzly. And it is amazing. Just gonna put it out there. It's amazing. I've had the privilege of, kind of reading the blueprint for the whole story. So just getting this first taste of just like what I think what is it, 7 pages
Yeah.
of
So
like
this
the first
one's
issue.
yes, and like I always, like I said, we love anime, so manga style, black and white comic, but a little touch of color, and the colors mean something. So at the end of the story, you're going to progressively see the color and the impact it's going to play on the entire story mode. This universe is like where you want to make a comic, your cousin want to make a comic, anybody made a comic, they can join in this, and it makes sense. And it's going to be a beautiful thing when it's all painted and done.
Yeah. So I'm excited for you, man. I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, thank
And
you.
like you said, it's only the beginning, man.
Only the
It's
beginning.
up from here, baby. It's
Ah,
up from here. But anyways, now that we got that out of the way,
I appreciate you, bro.
So Duran and I saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 this week. And I can only speak for myself, but because look, going in, I'm not a huge Guardians fan,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not a huge Guardians fan. This is easily my favorite Guardians movie of the three.
I I'm actually different. I'm more of a Guardians fan than some folks because I love space. So I would argue that sometimes I enjoy the Guardians team concept more than the Avengers concept. Um, this is by far the best Guardians, and not saying the other ones were slouches, but this right here was magnificent. It was really good, really, really good.
Yeah, and we were talking about this last week or a couple of weeks ago
Hmm.
when we were going over the trailer. And by the way, before we even get into this is your spoiler warning. If you guys have not seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3,
Oh,
stop now, come back. But I'm assuming if you've already clicked on this that you have seen it. So we're gonna get into spoilers. So going back to the trailer, me and you talked about it. I was about 90% sure that someone was gonna die in this
absolutely,
one.
yes.
But no one did. But even though they didn't die, I mean, at the end of the movie, and I guess we're just going to jump to the end here, the Guardians are kind of, at least the Guardians as we know them in their current iteration, are kind of effectively disbanded, right? Um, Peter goes back to Earth to spend some time with his grandfather and kind of, you know, go back home. I mean, he is from Earth after all.
Mhm.
Mantis is doing some soul searching. Rocket is officially the new leader of the Guardians, which, you know, shout out to him. I really feel like this was like a Rocket movie
Yes.
for sure. Like I thought how they went into his backstory
Mm-hmm.
and how that tied into the High Evolutionary. Even though it's a little different in the comics, and I'm sure Duran, you can touch a little bit more on that. But
Yeah.
Them touching on his backstory and like fleshing that out as they were introducing this new villain of the High Evolutionary is, I thought it was done so well. Like there were so many moments where I felt so much emotion in this movie because like the things that like they put Rocket through, and like dude, the part where he sees his friends, like his, I guess you want to call them like his fellow cellmates, I guess,
Yeah.
or in like I guess is the afterlife. And he was asking, "Can I come?" I'm sitting there like about to start crying, like, "No, Rocket, no!" And then when she's like, "But not yet," I'm like, "Yes, bring my boy back, bring him back."
Let's go back to what brought him there in the first place. If you guys, it's been feel like freaking forever since Guardians Volume 2. So we all saw the pitch of Warlock at the end, and everybody got hyped. We're like, "Yo, Adam Warlock's coming. He is the man." Some people say he's the god of the space, and they changed it up. They changed it up a little bit. They made it seem like he was younger, immature. He got out the cocoon too early, which it all made sense in the flow of the movie. But that man still put the pause on the team. Like, what? When he came through, had Nebula, and he threw her through the actual building. When Groot tried his best, Groot was trying to, like, you know what I mean, put the wrap up. He dragged the man. Illustration showed him being a spider at the end, basically beheaded with his little twigs. Just overall, like, Adam Warlock was the power blast at the beginning, just showing the destruction of who he is. Phenomenal job, was brought to the point of Rocket getting hurt. And that's what really started the whole child, like, have his whole background story, man, flashbacks and stuff. I felt that was perfect illustration of how you want to have Adam come into a building knowing that he's not to be played with.
Yeah, I really liked Adam Warlock in this movie. I thought they gave us just enough of him without like beating us over the head with it. And you know, like we were talking before we saw the movie, I think it was always going to be a case of how do we get away from this guy?
Yeah.
Less so, how do we beat this guy? Because there is no beating Adam Warlock. I mean, I thought they portrayed his powers in a very like digestible way. Because he is a bit overpowered for the Guardians, but again, I think him being literally born like a couple of days ago helps kind of balance out his powers a little bit, right?
Yes,
because he doesn't know what's going on. He's a blunt instrument, right? And I think that was kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke about, you know, his mom telling the High Evolutionary, "You brought him out of the cocoon too early." Like he wasn't finished cooking yet, so he ain't quite all the way there. You see him kind of like struggling a little bit with like understanding basic things, which of course is played for laughs, but you see him grow a little bit more throughout the whole movie, and he doesn't end up being just like a blunt instrument. But I always kind of assumed or maybe predicted that you know, he'd end up being on the Guardians side or joining their team in some kind of way.
I think that the way they did it, because like we both said it, even the comic version, Warlock, like they made in the Warlock and the Stones and Infinity Stones was a real big part of the comics. So for what they did in the MCU, they made Vision kind of like the Warlock as far as early storyline. So they had to change it up a little bit. You definitely tell us a James Gunn film. You have a joke every 4 or 5 lines about something, and it was very light and also very fun. It just was a fun film. All the Guardians films were fun. And seeing him like have Legendary get mad when he came back and like he's not done, and then you mentioned his mom's like, "Well, you took him out too early. He's not at that peak at what you want him to be. He's just learning his pathway. He still did what he had to do, but also I told you the Guardians are not someone you just walk into. They're gonna bow down. They are not that." And then you see how he is so pressed on finding Rocket And you're like, why is he on Rocket? This man is doing experiments on everybody else. And you see how the story progresses, and you realize that Rocket is not like everybody else.
Right.
He had the ability to not only be smart, but had the brain to actually realize, hey, you're doing this wrong. And then seeing the innocent Rocket dude, and then seeing the baby Rocket voice, and then seeing his first word say, "It hurts." Bro, that hurt. Like you an animal lover, you saw this film, you're like,
Yeah.
I want to put pause on this dude right now. Like this man is literally just. They had the bunny with the mask on, speaking out like a speaker trick.
You know what? You know what it reminded me of? Watching them kind of like all mutilated like that.
Yeah.
You remember Toy Story when they go into Sid's room for the first time and they see all these toys that have been like had their body parts switched out and stuff like that? Is Sid the high evolutionary?
Yes, that. They're from the same cloth, same bloodline. That's what we're gonna say right now.
I mean, clearly. How'd you feel about the high evolutionary, by the way, like in this film?
I think we have to give kudos for them making him relevant because, of course, we saw him. There's a couple of this comic versions of him, but he wasn't like a heavy name hitter to most folks who don't know anything about it.
Right.
I walked out of this film like, yo, I want to see him again. I want to see what he's capable of. I can see him pop in other films. Kind of Kane vibe a little bit, as far as like you said, he's been around. Like even said the music that he heard was, I'm not paraphrasing, I think it's over 300 years old or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that means he has access to time. He has access to a vault of different things. He's been doing experiments for this long. It makes you feel like Kane Conquer and him have crossed paths in time, and also how the suit looks so similar to King's. So I love even the energy blast when he actually destroyed, when he got so frustrated, and the entire people inside the cockpit were just destroyed. It shows his temperament of him being a mad scientist, but also the borderline of him being insane. And I just love the dynamic of that.
Yeah, it's he was obsessive, right? He was obsessive. Yes. He obsessed over progress, just for progress' sake, right? I was okay with how they kind of changed a little bit of his comic book origins too. So in the comics, he's actually a human from Earth. Mm-hmm. But in this one, they don't really specify where he's from, but they kind of imply that he's not from Earth because he mentions to Peter, yeah, I've visited your planet before. Yes. Right. And so, of course, he makes Counter Earth and everything like that. But yeah, no, to your point, I think there are some definite similarities between like him and Kang, like you said, the suit and everything like that. I really like this guy as a villain because like even the intro that we get a little bit about his backstory from Gamora. Mm-hmm. Again, you talk about how much you love space in the comics, just because it's such a vast medium, right? Mm-hmm. Like there are corners of the universe that we still haven't even sniffed yet in the MCU, right?
Yep.
And Gamora kind of talks about how there are corners of the universe who consider him God because he's created the Sovereign, which is Adam Warlock and his mom. He created them. He created Rocket. He then created entire planets with entire civilizations, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of get that narcissistic genius kind of bravado towards the end when I think one of his assistants says something like "Dear God" or something like that, and he's like, "There is no God. That's why I stepped in." And I'm just like, "Wow, this is but that's exactly what a guy like him would think."
And then like just seeing like that and like just looking at, he was so, like you said, progression. He wanted progression. We have A9, P13. Like he wasn't even Rocket. That's who he was. So like that's all you are to me. Just a
number
project for me. That's all you are.
Yeah.
So just seeing that and seeing how Rocket stood out, and then you see how he went to 90, and then the Counter Earth, and like Rocket, you were never going to be there. You were just like a little test subject for me to get there. You figure out all this, but you can't figure out that you weren't really the person I cared for.
Yeah, that was tough.
It's
that was tough,
bro. Like what? And then like seeing how Rocket was like figuring out the formulas and stuff, and then you see how like the rocket on the space and how he said my dream is to create things, and he did that. He did everything he said he wanted to do, but with a different family, different crew. But let's go back on like the actual opening scene. Like Peter was going through it, bro. Like it shows you the end game stuff, and it sees you how he mentioned Gamora and like how it wasn't the Gamora that he fell in love with, everything else. It just shows that he wanted that Gamora back so bad, but it also tells you that Endgame really happened. Everything happening as far as the previous MCU did play a part. There is no, oh, this is James Gunn universe. It all played a part. And that they had a new Gamora. She wasn't feeling you. She never felt you. Towards the end of the movie, she softened a little bit, but the bottom line is like, yo, I'm not who you think I am. And
Right.
that was consistent. And then you seen Peter like, yo, I'm just lost in this. He tried everything he possibly could, but he just was like almost pathetic in a low. Like he was really, really trying, but it just, bro, I don't know you. You're not who I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. That really. I mean, I felt for Peter, man, because I mean, I couldn't imagine like losing my wife
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing like an exact replica of my wife
Mm-hmm.
and her wanting absolutely nothing to do with me.
At all.
Like that, in some ways, that's worse than just him losing Gamora
Mm-hmm.
and then never seeing her again. Because now he has to just sit here and just look at another version of her exist,
Yes,
knowing that she wants nothing to do with him. Like that's just constant torture, bro.
it is. And then like he tries his best to communicate and talk, and like you had the memories, but that person doesn't. And it's like, what's the Adam Sandler movie? Like, is it 50 First Dates or like that? Like, it's like repeatedly, like, you're trying. Dude, Peter was done. Like it showed him being like Nebula just carrying him and the whole team carrying him back. Like he was always drunk, and
Yeah.
like he just that's what he did. It's pity. How do you feel about Nebula and Rocket's connection, yo, throughout the movie? Because like Nebula was a small piece that became like a main factor in this entire film and the flow of the actual, like you would say she was the glue of the actual family. And then you saw her and Gamora do the universal nods to each other, like,
Yeah.
that's in the word. You just know we fam. We know
Yeah.
that. How you
Well,
feel
you
about
got to remember too. But before I get to Nebula and Rocket, like you got to remember too, like the relationship between Nebula and Gamora. Remember the Gamora that we had before Endgame. She had made her, if you want to call it, they kind of like made their peace together.
Yeah.
At that point, this is still a Gamora that is still harboring all those childhood rivalries with Nebula, right? So even though they acknowledge each other with that that head nod and that grunt, there's still a little bit of like tension there, where the old Gamora, they had a little bit more of a sisterly love kind of dynamic towards the end, right? The dynamic between like Nebula and Rocket, again, I think it just kind of shows the growth over time with like someone like Nebula, because even though she grew up with Gamora, for a long time she hated Gamora because that was Thanos' favorite, right? Even though they were both adopted, I'm gonna use that term loosely because I don't really know how you can call adoption when Thanos murders your entire planet and decides to be like, I'm gonna spare you, but I'll train you how to fight. So yeah, hell of a father figure he was. But I think it just shows the growth of a character like Nebula, starting out as a villain and then kind of a gray area anti-hero. Now she's a full-on member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and just kind of showing that real like family connection that all these folks have. And what I love so much about the Guardians, even though I'm not a huge fan of them, I love that they all come from like broken places, but they all choose each other. Like they didn't just, even though they stumbled into one another, they chose to stick around. And to me, that's the mark of like, people really caring about you, right? Is that none of them have to be here. They could all go off and do their own things, but they choose to be here and they choose to risk their lives for each other and they choose to have each other's back no matter what. And I think that's been the common thread of, this Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, if you will, is just, them realizing, the family that they want and that they've, made for themselves outside of, Rocket's backstory and Peter Quill's backstory and Nebula's backstory. All their backstories are in pain.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Actually, I heard a quote earlier today. Actually, it was the difference between a villain and a hero is a hairline.
Yes.
Right? Because very often you have both the villain and the hero, their origins are rooted in pain. The only difference is, the villain says, this happened to me, I'm going to make the world pay for this thing happening to me. The hero says, this happened to me, I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. That's literally the only difference.
And the cool, like, it's a great line, great quote. But like, you got to think about this MCU and why we freaking love Marvel so much. Is that, remember the blip and how Thanos and everything he did? Remember, Rocket and Nebula didn't leave. So those 5 years of them actually stayed together, and
That's
they
true.
grew and they became stronger. And like they were like almost like mirror reflections of each other. They both were taken apart, destroyed, and dissected, and like they see each other. And then you see the passion of when Quill was drunk. He was drunk, and he tried to like use almost like the AED type space AED thing on him. Realized, and Nebula was like, "No, what are you doing? You can't do that." And then he had a kill switch. Nebula knew more about Rocket than everyone else did because they spent so much time together. And then seeing her showing like, first of all, to put a kill switch on somebody because you didn't want no one else, like you felt like he's such a superior being that no one can touch my property. This is a different animal person. Rock is a person. Okay, I know it's an animal creature, but it's a person. Be like, yo, I don't want no one touching him. So it's a kill switch on him. You can't bring him back without my blessing. That's some sick stuff right there. Right?
Yeah, I mean, so, to the high evolutionary, I mean, he looks at Rocket as he created him, so he's looking at him as proprietary information. Like,
yes,
that's intellectual property that you have.
So, just seeing Nebula, like just seeing that, and then you also realize like the connection, like the blip to 5 years, like those they were together, and just seeing them go as far as a family, and seeing how Nebula has more tech. Rocket made sure her arm was upgraded for everything else. Almost like Iron Man's cannon. At first, when she flew out the White Warlock, I was like, "Oh shoot, she's flying out there like she's about to work." It didn't work out too well.
No, I didn't.
Try, but just seeing that, and then I personally think Cosmo the dog was perfectly fit in this thing for humor. Like, be called Bad Dog and seeing the like. It's the humor. This is James Gunn film. Yeah. It was really, really good. And then her powers. OP, like just OP of that. But I think the real MP is Mantis, yo. Mantis was like, first of all, having communication skill of everybody knowing what people are saying. And then I feel she was the most consistent person when reminding Peter, hey, you got a family back home. Just showing everybody that this love, like, hey, he's not a dummy. Dave Bautista, shout out to Dave Bautista. He's a phenomenal actor. For him to even play this dumb for this long in these movies. And for us to believe that Drax is this when Drax is actually the destroyer, but they couldn't. That's one thing my one nod about the Guardians is that you didn't make Drax the destroyer that we truly wanted, but you made him fit within the movie. Mantis, I think, was just an MVP and the glue of everything.
How you feel about I really liked Mantis's role. I think, to your point, she is kind of like and maybe it's just because she comes off as like really kind of like innocent and gullible, but she is kind of like almost like the moral anchor of them all, right? Because like she's the only one that's like not going in. It's just like, yeah, we're gonna go in here, we're gonna kill everybody if we need to. Like she's just kind of along for the ride, you know what I mean? Just like having fun. I loved at the end too when I can't remember if it was her or someone else who said, they call you Drax the Destroyer, but now I know why. Now I know your purpose. You were meant to be a dad. And like,
that was it.
And understanding Drax's whole backstory about how he lost his daughter is like, that hit me.
Everyone has been through pain in this storyline, bro. Everyone, like, seeing like, and then when you see as far as like going back and realize that there's more animals, there's a Rocket sees more of his like kind still being dissected, and then you see all these little kids there. You see Drax is like triggered, so you have both of them triggered by the same thing, and then you also see the team how they're divided, how they're trying to rescue each other. Well, I'm gonna get in the ship to help you. No, I came over to help you. And Star-Lord's like, well, I'm off the ship already. Well, what do you mean you're off the ship already? And Groot's like, I am Groot, explaining that in one little free, I am Groot. And Mantis was able to say, you jumped off and you had a parachute? That's funny to me how you get that from one saying that I am Groot.
Yeah.
But just showing that everyone's a family, everyone's trying to make sure they're there for each other. And then when Rocket's like, I'm tired of running. And then everyone just turned around and was like, yo, we following you, bro. No matter what you want to do, we down for it.
Yeah, I love that about the movie, that like they were all in a way like reconciling their past.
Yes.
Every single one of them, right? And I think that's what, like, from the emotional standpoint of the movie, what made it hit so well for me was just, okay, we know this guy who's after Rocket. We understand the implications of his past there. But Peter being confronted and having to work with new Gamora, him having to confront that, Drax saving those kids, and I knew where it was kind of going when he kind of like knelt down in front of the cell and was like, I used to have a daughter just like you, and I'm just like, okay, this is all just like coming full circle. Like they're all being forced to confront their past pain. Yes. You know what I mean? So I thought it was great how they did, the ending with all of them deciding kind of, not all of them, but several of them deciding to kind of go their own separate ways, to confront their past. You know what I mean? Because shit, if Rocket can go through all that, Peter, the least you can do is go back to Earth for a couple of years and see your grandpa. You know what I mean? But on a quick side note, I thought it was hilarious, like the whole movie, how when Groot is talking, Gamora's like, okay, I'm convinced y'all are just making this shit up. There's no way y'all are understanding this. You know what I mean? I feel like Gamora in that moment, like she's like all of us. Yeah, and it's just like hilarious to see him say like, I am Groot, and everyone's like, ill, gross. And I'm like, what the hell? What are you talking? What's going on?
Like you just got like a whole like 3 sentences after I am Groot. Like, come on, bro. Like it's just one of those. Yeah. You see her at the end, like it was nice working with you too. Like just seeing that her being like more softened about that overall group. How did you feel about Adam Warlock's mom being blasted like that? I didn't see that coming that fast.
Given the leverage that the High Evolutionary had over Adam and his mom, I knew there was going to be some way that Adam Warlock was not going to be on the side of the High Evolutionary, right? Okay. And, given that his mom pretty much tells him what to do all the time, I'm not going to say that I knew it was coming, but I wasn't exactly like when the thing started blowing up, I was just like, all right. And I saw him, say like, mother, and, race to try and go save her. I was like, okay, yeah, she's a goner. She's a goner. This is going to be his way of like, detaching himself from the High Evolutionary. You know what I mean? Because now he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that attachment. Like he's not really loyal to the High Evolutionary. The High Evolutionary basically said, look, if you guys don't give me what I need, I'm going to wipe your race out. I'm just going to wipe them all out.
I created you guys. Like it almost like the I don't want to say badge of honor. It sounds terrible, but like if you don't get a Guardian member, somebody's got to die. Somebody got to go through some kind of pain or something for you to be a badge of this Guardian team. Jeez, that's way like he was moving. He was moving to try to get back there and just couldn't get there. Yeah. And then you see as like as the story progresses and you see the teams, the fight scene with all of them together and going through a tunnel. And then you see
that was great.
Yeah, Groot's going through. You see Rocket Joe. You saw the whole old classic from the Volume 1 of Rocket going back. That is by far the best tag team there is in Marvel. I don't care what no one says. If I had a tag team I want to see every time, it's Groot and Rocket. That's just
yeah. Well, because Groot is pretty much like indestructible, is he not? Like he can. Adam Warlock nearly incinerated him. He's like, Groot is like he's like Cell.
No,
from Dragon Ball Z. Like if there's even a little bit left of him, he's just gonna regenerate.
And that's why sort of like we'll get to the end of the post credits. We're like when you see him this shape in his head, I hope that's King Groot. We actually get that. It saddens me, bro. We may not like. Are we going to get more Guardian films?
I don't know, man. Like honestly, the way that they left it off, I don't think we will. I don't think we will, and not just because of like how they left off, but James Gunn is
out.
The man at DC now. Like he's not going to take away his time running the DC studio to go make another Guardians film. That's just not what it is. I feel like they kind of put the nail in the coffin, like at the end of the post credits when Rocket started playing that song from the first Guardians movie.
Yeah,
I was just like, come on, you don't play that music and at this point, and then there's a Guardians 4.
By far the best playlist as far as music interactions.
By far has the best soundtrack.
It was.
Yeah.
It's the most OP team ever, yo. You got Rocket, Groot, Adam Warlock, Cosmo. Like this is your new team. Like I want to see that. I want to see Groot and Warlock on the same roster. Like we saw a little bit of it, but I want to see like for instance, like in future films, I want to see that. Rocket always wanted to be the leader. He always wanted to be the leader. But now, like you being anointed as though you are the man, and Quill saying like you would be a better leader than me, it's just like embracing that you've been through this journey. Here's your badge of honor. We're all following you. I want to see that.
Yeah.
Like you gave me 2 end post end credits. You gave me 2 of them. The second one was kind of pointless, but it says Star-Lord will return soon. But come on, I need the Guardians.
And that's where I think they're gonna pop up in another Avengers movie, because in what capacity could Star-Lord return and not the Guardians?
Well, him being back on Earth.
I mean, yeah, I get that logistically, but just creatively, people are not going to want to see Star-Lord and not want to,
he has a family,
and not crave for Groot and Rocket and Adam Warlock now. Like, they're not going to give us Adam Warlock and then not give us any more of him.
And he does have a strong fandom. He has a very, very strong fandom for Star-Lord. People love seeing him. I'm more of like the team. Like I love Rocket. Like you said, I want to see everybody.
Right.
So I can see them popping up and doing things, but it's interesting to see how that would go. Dude, it's just everything was so well written. I loved it.
Yeah.
Even towards the end, when Warlock went back to go save Peter, it just showed you him maturing and him realizing that, hey, when Groot saved Warlock and said, hey, everybody's their second chance, he said, why are you saving me? And then you see him do the same thing for Peter. Because Peter was gone. He was
he was gone.
He was out.
It was a dub. It was a dub for him.
And then seeing all that and just seeing them embrace like almost the whole zoo and onto their spaceship out of nowhere. And like it was a very fulfilling ending that I cannot get mad if I'm mad that it won't be one, but also I understand if it's not. The music, the tone, even the end credits, it was showing original stuff. Like it made like it was like, yo, close the door, we're done.
Yeah. And that's what it felt like to me. And I would be totally okay if we didn't get another one. Yeah. I just think artistically they finished out the story for the Guardians in my opinion, the best way that they could.
It's good.
That aside, though, do you think we'll see any more of the High Evolutionary? Because they didn't kill him unless he died on the ship.
I don't think they killed him. Because Rocket had a chance to. Rocket said, no, I'm a Guardian Galaxy.
Right.
Like, yo, he mauled his face. Rocket went ham. Like, he
did. Yeah, he did.
I do think we're going to see him again. Yeah, we're going to see him again. And I hope that brings Rocket back. I feel like that's like a peanut butter and jelly connection where you got to have one or the other. Gave Red Skull vibes type. Like how it was.
Yeah.
There's so many other characters in space we haven't seen. And we did say this, like that quote said, there is no God. That's why I stepped in. So we're told God and Galaxy, the Eternals, like also with him being the year, saying like, this is your planet before, like he has connection with these times. So
well, hold on. Speaking of Eternals and Celestials and such, isn't Nowhere just the head of a dead Celestial?
That they turn into a freaking And so there's a theory going around that the yellow goo, it was from celestial blood type stuff. And that's what the higher evolutionary was using to actually for his advancement as far as the so there's a connection to it, the Eternals, everything else. And I think he's going to come back. I really do.
I hope he comes back. I mean, he's a great villain. I mean, he's done a lot in the comics, so there's more storylines that they could pull from if they want to use him. Yes. One character I thought was going to show up here, but they didn't, and I wonder if they have any plans to. The Nova Corps.
Bro, they've been teasing that forever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I thought that they were going to give us some Nova Corps stuff, but they gave us Adam Warlock, so I'm not going to be greedy.
I am just going to a guess at this. I feel like when they had the original meeting about the Guardians, James Gunn said Nova Corps is my baby, and he had a vision of what he wanted to do, and that the fact that he's walking out the door, it made it feel like, hey, I'm not going to give you guys anything to work with because I'm not going to be there.
Right.
Because they did mention a little bit of in the second movie volume about, hey, the Nova Corps out there. And I was like, yo, they're teasing. Like, show me something.
Right.
I love Green Lantern, the Guardians. Like I love the Lantern Corps. I'm like Nova is that. Like I want it, and the fact that I didn't get it yet, it tells you, like you said, so much of space that hasn't been touched. So I do see that coming back around, and then I do see other villains popping back up.
Yeah. I could, I was just thinking about while you were just talking. I could see Nova Corps making an appearance in the Marvels. That could be, I mean, especially with this whole, Kree Skrull war that's going on in space.
Yes,
I could see them maybe coming in and being like, "Hey, look, we're trying to have some order out here." You know what I mean, in the universe. That's speculation, but I just
because it has to eventually. Like you got to get the more Eternals. They gotta bump cross paths somehow. Like there's no way you can go on this entire space and then you never bump into Nova Corps. Like you got to, like maybe they haven't hit the right actor they wanted to play it, which will kind of hold it off. But like you gotta give me something,
yeah,
like an Easter egg or something going on. Because even Gladiator, like we haven't seen that. Galactus, like there's so many other characters, people out there.
Well, Galactus, I think they're definitely waiting for like Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, that kind of stuff before they give us Galactus.
Yeah, but you gotta bring Nova Corps.
I think Galactus, and I don't want to get too off topic, but I think Galactus is going to be more of like the next big bad after Kang. Like I think we're going to get this Kang saga, that's going to end, and then we'll get more Fantastic Four, X-Men heavy stuff, and then we'll get like Galactus and stuff like that later. But that's a guess.
It's a great time.
A guy can hope. You know what I mean?
So, out of 5, what do you give this movie?
That's a good question. I'd give it a solid like 3.8. Yeah. That's not a low score, not a super high score. I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was well written. I'd probably, I'll round it up and give it a 4. I really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was good. The action was good. The jokes were good. There weren't too many moments where I was just like, oh, you guys tried to do that for laughs and it wasn't funny. I mean, it's my favorite Guardians movie.
Bro,
I thought it wrapped up the trilogy real nice. Like it made me feel emotions throughout the movie. So like anytime a movie does that, I give it 2 thumbs up.
Even like we didn't even talk about this when like Peter was trying to do CPR on Rocky.
Oh.
Like, no, like that's just the emotional side to it.
Yeah,
I'm actually going to give it a little bit higher than yours. I'm going to give it like a 4.3. The reason I get a 4.3 is because it's just I rewatch it. Like that's what I base my films on. When I turn this on and rewatch it, there's some films where like I'm never watching this ever again, and there's some films like I'm sitting back chilling, I can watch this. And I will say, out of all the franchises, outside of Captain America, because Captain America had team-ups, which Guardians of the Galaxy is based on team-up. But like as far as the individual movies for Guardian of Captain America, I would say this is the best trilogy outside of the Avengers.
Ooh, the Iron Man fans are going to come for you.
Go ahead. Iron Man 3 sucked.
Iron Man 3 is like bottom tier MCU movie.
Yes, it's like almost like Thor: Love and Thunder. Like that's how.
Yes, it's that level bad. I don't know.
Yes. So
you know what, man? We're gonna one of these days we're gonna do an MCU movie ranking from like worst to best. And we need to have this discussion because I feel like Iron Man 3 is one of those movies that just gets a pass. Like people shit on like, for example, we were talking about this last week.
Yeah.
People shit on like Man of Steel. Man of Steel is light years better than Iron Man 3.
It stands on top of Iron Man 3. Like Iron Man 3 is like in the water drowning and Man of Steel is like up here in the air. Like it's no comparison.
Yes.
Iron Man.
If you guys in the comments or you guys listening feel differently about Iron Man 3, debate your daddy, don't debate me. Okay? Iron Man 3 sucks.
It's terrible, dude. And like it's just one of those films where you feel like it was a money grab. That's what it felt like. But as far as like do you consider Spider-Man's No Way, like the new Spider-Man's consider Marvel or Sony? Because that's a great trilogy also. But as far as like Marvel MCU trilogies, I would say Guardians might be the best one. It might actually be the best trilogy.
It's up there. I feel like I hear your
Black Panther don't count. It only had 2.
I understand your concern about like Cap because he had like it's Civil War was basically Avengers 2.5,
yeah,
right?
But we also argue this. 5 is Winter Soldier, and Civil War is like what 4.5. You want to say that, right? The first Captain America is what?
High 3s, maybe.
Okay, so if we want to go consistently across the board, if all the Guardians are all 4s, and this last one was a little bit higher, the point system might favor the Guardians.
I mean, here's my thing. I hear what you're saying on like an average, but
just want to throw out there
the peak of the Captain America trilogy is crazy.
It is, but we're going to do a cliff, and we're going to be fair. We say across the board, if we're going to say 5 is the max, and 0 is what honestly Iron Man 3 should be, but we're gonna give it a 1. But I'm saying, like, we're gonna do going across the board. Guardians have not failed. They haven't had a bad movie. Thor's had 3 bad movies.
That's true.
And they keep putting more Thor movies out.
They keep making
so that just tells you they have a bad trilogy. Every other franchise has been like a subpar. Guardians have been consistent. If anything, you could say that they actually improved every film.
Yeah, you could say that.
That's all I'm saying. So, DC fans, there you go. There is an emotional side of James Gunn that wasn't all cracking jokes. That maybe some bright side to what they can do in future films. I think the Booster Gold film, off subject, is going to be a freaking. He's going to kill it. On that one.
He's going to kill it. He's going to kill it. That's
but as far as big on this Guardians, if you have not seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, please go see it. It was good. Today's my first day. I took me and young boy. We went. That was fun. That was
yeah. I saw you post about that.
Yeah. So, man, just go and see this film. This film was great. It was freaking awesome.
Yeah. If you guys haven't seen it yet, number one, I don't know why you're still here. But if you haven't, or if you have, let us know in the comments what you guys thought. Always happy to have a discussion with you guys. Where does this rank as your favorite Guardians film? Where does it rank in your MCU films? And are you going to follow Duran off the cliff and say that Guardians has the best trilogy of the MCU? I think that's nonsense. Even though I understand what you mean. I understand what you mean by Civil War being Avengers 2.5, but it's still a Captain America movie. And if we're considering it part of the Captain America trilogy,
okay,
come on, everyone's fighting for second place.
No, if the clip stops at 5. It's 5.5.
And honestly, number 2 might be Spider-Man.
Spider-Man might be number 1 if you go by that ratio. We gotta do this one day. We gotta break this down between 0 and 5. No higher than 5. Oh, the ceiling was so no crap that the cap is 5, and with their point system, I think you might be surprised by the Guardians. I think you may be surprised. Maybe I'm being a little biased. Groot is on the wall for the wifey, so maybe I'm being a little biased. But I also will mention this to you, this young man. I gotta say this right now. Is there any other film that you were saddened that you're not going to see anymore in the MCU more than this one, excluding Black Panther? That right there tells me it was a great freaking trilogy. Because
that's fair. That's a fair argument. And you know what? I got to give you credit because usually you'll come with like a hot take and give me nothing but nonsense to back it up. But I will give you credit today. I'll give you credit today, and I feel like we would have felt that way about Cap and his trilogy if Civil War had ended the way it ended in the comics.
That would, yeah.
If Cap had died at the end of Civil War, we're having a totally different discussion.
Sure could have, would have. Didn't happen.
But he didn't. So by the time we even like lost Cap to like him going to another timeline or whatever, it was just like, yeah, I'm happy to see you go because I understand, what it was okay to see him go. You know what I mean?
I will say this, and you are going to call me. Yeah, there might be a Star-Lord TV show coming in the future. I just thought about that. There might be a TV show for him. If they made a Hawkeye TV show, they can make a Star-Lord TV show.
I mean, if you want to use that logic, there's a lot of TV shows they need to make then.
I know, because
I'm sorry, Hawkeye, but
Volume 3 cracked the top 10 of Marvel MCU films.
I don't think I don't have the films up in front of me, but
I think it may.
I don't know, man. Could it
may
make
have.
top 12, top 15? Maybe.
No. Don't
Dude, there's like 30 of these movies.
I know. And I think we should do a point system. So when we nobody bias, we do a point system. We have your score, my score, and then we make that a final score. And then at the end of our actual thing, we do a conclusion of the actual points of what's top 10. And if we were saying a 4, I'm saying a 4.2, 4.3. All right. This is out of 10 points, bro. I'm just saying.
You know what, listeners? I would love for you guys to get in on this. Let us know what you think. Is Guardians 3 a top 10 MCU film? I have to write down all the movies and like look at this objectively.
Write them down. Might be top 7.
Okay, now you're just being crazy.
It might be top 7.
No,
I'm just saying.
Crazy. Just saying. Crazy. Anyways, we love the movie. I hope you guys did too. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments. Tell Deron that he's insane for his hot takes every week. Do you have anything else, my friend?
No, man. Peace and love. You guys are amazing. This is what, 25? Number 25?
Yeah, episode 25. So if you guys have been hanging out with us this whole time, we appreciate you. We love you. We appreciate all the support. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends. And we'll catch you guys next time.
Peace and love.